Namaskar friends. One of the lasting legacies of the Great Game is the 2,670 kilometers Durand Line that the British drew across the Pashtun heartland in 1893. 132 years later, the colonial legacy echoes with gunfire as the two countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, fight over its status. The reason? Because the line divided more than just two countries. It divided tribes, identities, histories, language, and culture. I am Tilak Devasher, and you are watching The Great Game Reloaded. In the 19th century, Britain's greatest nightmare was Russian expansion in Central Asia that was given the name of the Great Game. They feared that the Russians would reach India's northern border and attack their jewel in the crown. They needed a buffer, and that buffer was Afghanistan. The British Foreign Secretary, Mortimer Durand, was sent to meet Abdur Rahman Khan, the Amir of Afghanistan. On 12th November 1893, the Durand Line Agreement was signed. It ran from Chitral Valley in the north to Balochistan in the south. But here's the thing, the line did not create a boundary between Afghanistan and British India. It created a sphere of influence in which the British had interest and from which the interest of the Amir was excluded. It did not imply transfer of sovereignty from the Amir to the British. Pakistan, when it was created in 1947, inherited these territories, but that is when the questions, the complications, and the controversies began. 1. Why did a Pashtun, Amir Abdur Rahman, the Iron Amir as he was called, agree to let go of a large chunk of Pashtun lands and population? It is not as if he had been defeated in war. The only explanation could be that he was sure that this was not a permanent arrangement. 2. The Amir signed the English version of the document, though he did not know that language. Why was the Persian version not used, even though Durand knew Persian? Moreover, the Amir did not sign the map attached to the agreement. Without a signed map, agreements regarding territory are considered dubious. Post-1947, an important legal point emerged that whether on the partition of British India, the Pashtun areas could legally pass on to Pakistan. The Afghans asked, how could a treaty signed between them and the British government be transferred to a third country, Pakistan, that was created only in 1947 and was not even in existence in 1893? Another issue was about the shelf life of the Durand Line. Was it signed in perpetuity? If it were to be valid in perpetuity, Durand, as a professional diplomat, would have made sure that it was mentioned in the agreement. That this was not done was possibly because the agreement only earmarked spheres of influence and not boundaries. These controversies and differing perceptions have led to border clashes between the Taliban and the Pakistani forces. Checkpoints have been destroyed, soldiers have been killed, and civilians have been caught in the crossfire. The worst sufferers have been the Pashtuns. Their homes have become battlefields, their children, collateral damage. Those killing are Pashtuns, those being killed are also Pashtuns. Pashtuns on both sides have paid a heavy price and continue to do so. The Durand Line has become Pakistan's nightmare. It's an open wound that continues to bleed. The biggest irony of all, the same Taliban that Pakistan helped install in power in Kabul now attack Pakistani forces along a border that the Taliban claim does not exist and that Pakistan insists is legitimate. Since 2017, Pakistan has been building a fence along the Durand Line. 2,600 kilometers of barbed wire, surveillance drones, and outposts. It claims to have fenced over 90% of the line. By constructing the fence, Pakistan is trying to manufacture facts on the ground, little realizing that fencing is not the same as legitimacy. That fence has only aggravated the underlying tensions. When the British left the subcontinent in 1947, Afghanistan considered that the Durand Line had ceased to exist. No Afghan government, Royal, Republican, Communist, Mujahideen or Taliban, has formally recognized it as an international border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. If anything, every Afghan government has hoped to re-annex the territories they had lost east of the line, extending up to River Indus. Pakistan, however, treats the Durand Line as a settled fact and an international boundary. But here's the thing. Pakistan has always been insecure about the lack of its acceptance by Afghanistan. Not surprisingly, Pakistan's policies towards Afghanistan have been geared to get an Afghan government, any government, to accept the sanctity of the Durand Line so that no ambiguity is left as far as its western borders are concerned. This has had serious implications for Pak-Afghan relations, a subject I shall revert to in a future episode. The British position from 1893 till 1947 was quite clear. Several letters, communications and official statements revealed that the British did not think that the Durand Line was about amalgamation of territory. Instead, the agreement had fixed only the limit of their respective spheres of influence rather than being a demarcation of sovereignty. It was only after 1947 that from a sphere of influence, the British designated the Durand Line as an international boundary. The reason for this perfidy would appear to be that 1947, British military chiefs of staff noted that, and I quote, "The area of Pakistan is strategically the most important in the continent of India, and the majority of our strategic requirements could be met," unquote. Thus, the British hoped to leverage Pakistan for their objectives and so made sure it was viable in several ways. In an earlier episode, I had mentioned how the British prevailed upon Muhammad Ali Jinnah not to accept the independence of Kalat and force its accession to Pakistan. Converting the Durand Line into an international boundary from a sphere of influence was part of the same strategy to make Pakistan viable. In a future episode, I will talk about how Gilgit-Baltistan was part of the same strategy. Now, what is most significant from the Afghan point of view is that the last official treaty signed between British India and Afghanistan concerning the Indo-Afghan frontier was the 1921 Treaty of Kabul. This had one critical clause directly related to the present situation. The treaty prescribed that the border between India and Afghanistan was merely a temporary arrangement, intended initially for 3 years and then subject to denunciation by either party, that is the governments of Afghanistan and India, with 12 months' notice. This right to unilateral denunciation was given to both parties, who were free to denounce the arrangements any time after 3 years from 1921, if and when they wished to do so, giving a 12 months' notice. Due to border tensions, the Afghan government convened a Loya Jirga, the highest decision-making body in Afghanistan, in Kabul on 26 July 1949. That, among other things, officially declared the Durand Line Agreement of 1893 and the Anglo-Afghan Treaty of 1921 as null and void. This was a watershed in Afghan history. No Afghan government since 1949 has abandoned this standpoint, not even the Taliban. Clearly, therefore, the legitimacy of the Durand Line as an international border is doubtful. To begin with, it was not an international border, but merely marked spheres of influence. It was superseded with the 1921 agreement that was only for 3 years and had an exit clause, a clause that the Afghans exercised in 1949. The Durand Line is a big fault line in Pakistan, if not the most serious. This is because no Afghan government has accepted it since 1949. If Pakistan were not desperate to get Afghanistan to recognize it, it would not have tried 3 times with the Taliban 1.0 and again with the current Taliban government. For many Pashtuns in Afghanistan, their boundary is at the Indus River. These areas for them constitute Pashtunistan. They could be either merged with Afghanistan or be an autonomous unit independent of Pakistan. So what happens now? Is there a way forward? The short answer has to be unlikely. The positions of the two countries are irreconcilable. Pakistan wants Afghanistan to accept the Durand Line as the international border. Afghanistan refuses because for it there is no boundary agreement between the two countries. No amount of fencing can fix this conundrum simply because fences do not resolve issues of identity. Borders do not erase history, and power cannot manufacture consent. What about India? India has maintained strategic silence on the Durand Line. It has long supported a stable, sovereign and inclusive Afghanistan. It has focused on development and humanitarian assistance. So let me leave you with a question. Given this major fault line in Pakistan, what should India do? Is it an opportunity for India to exploit, given Pakistan's continued sponsorship of terrorism, or should India stay away and focus only on development? Do think about it and let me know in the comments. Let me end with an anecdote about the independence of the Afghans. During the visit of Muhammad Dawood, then President of Afghanistan, to Moscow in April 1977, relations with the Soviet Union almost ruptured. During his speech, Brezhnev, General Secretary of the Communist Party, referred to the presence of some NATO personnel in northern Afghanistan and asked that they be removed. A furious Dawood retorted, and I quote, "Afghanistan is a free and independent country, and we will not tolerate anyone telling us who to allow and who not to allow to work for us. Afghanistan shall remain poor if necessary, but free in its acts and decisions." Unquote. Thereafter, Dawood got up and without saying goodbye, made for the door. Though he returned to say goodbye to Brezhnev, he declined to have a one-on-one meeting with him, which he had requested earlier. Thank you for watching. See you again soon with another topic and another anecdote. Until then, I am Tilak Devasher. Namaskar and Jai Hind.